But I would like to read the disclaimer to you, and I'm sure you're probably more aware of it than I am. Angel Heart Radio program should not be used for your legal, medical, or professional advice, nor to take the place of those, nor your own sound judgment. You are a divine spark. You are universal light. You are here on purpose, and you are you are part of a divine plan. And it is our joy to support you here on Angel Heart Radio. So thank you for joining us today. If you are joining us anywhere but on the Angel Heart Radio Facebook page, may I encourage you to go over there, because that's where you can comment and ask questions. And Janet, I know, as well as imparting information today about what we can expect in the coming month or so, you are also happy to do, mini readings for people. So
Correct.
How gorgeous is that? So people, if you're joining us for the first time, you need to understand that Janet will require your name, time and date and place of birth. And if you're happy to share those, Janet will be delighted to give you a small reading. Janet?
I always do. I love that.
I know. That's and Ursula Farrell has joined us. Thank you so much,
Hey, Ursula.
So Janet, you tell me that Mars is going to be playing a huge part in our lives.
He has been playing a huge part in our lives. I'm not sure that everybody has realized the power of Mars at this point in time, but he has been, and he will continue to play a big role in our lives over the next several weeks, and all the way up through January, literally.
Wow.
Up until the beginning of the year. And that's because he has slowed down tremendously at this point in getting ready for retrograde, which will happen on September 9th. And then he is a planet that retrogrades for about 10 weeks. So we are not out of retrograde until November 13th. And actually 13th, 14th, depending on where you live on the planet. And then it takes time again for him to pick up speed and to move back to normal. All the while, he is going back over the same territory that he's already been in. So whatever it is he has triggered for everyone, we're going to feel it several different times over the next few months. Yeah. And I mean, we have to laugh about this, right? I mean, so much has happened in 2020. A friend posted a meme the other day that she found somewhere on Facebook, and literally it must have been, you can't see my other hand, but it must have been so long of all the things that have happened in 2020, just since January 1. And I was cracking up by the time I got to the end of it because I was breathless. But I'm like, we have been through a lot in 2020 so far. And of course, it's not over yet. So we have more to play out here. And since Mars is a planet that it's the principle of the masculine warrior. So Mars plays a role in catalyzing the ability for us to take action in our lives. So we owe our ability to move forward, to have that dynamic motion to Mars in our charts and in our lives. Without Mars, we would likely not find ourselves as willing to move forward as we are with him in our lives. And as many of you have been on this program when we've talked about Mercury turning retrograde, we're familiar with Mercury because he turns retrograde at least 3 times, if not 4, in a year. So we're kind of used to that. You know, you hear Mercury retrograde, you're like, okay, I'm going to back up my computer. I'm going to check my emails, double check my contracts, because we've really gotten really good at dealing with Mercury retrograde. But Mars retrograde doesn't happen as frequently. In fact, it happens maybe every 24 to 26 months. So we kind of lose sight of what was that happened when Mars was retrograde, right? we don't hold those memories all that long. And so every time Mars prepares to go retrograde, we really need to do a check-in with ourselves and in our charts, or at least understand what it can bring to us, because it is kind of
Right.
crazy making.
Now we've got, and sometimes I get names really confused. So welcome to the lovely person who is saying namaste, beautiful souls. And we
That's
have,
Asa, maybe Asa.
oh yes, Asa, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't see the second A, and I thought that's not right, what I was going to call it. So Asa, welcome. And also Gail, is it Grunigan?
Runigan, hi Gail. Oh my gosh, I haven't heard from you or seen you on my channel in a long time. It's great to have you out there.
Well, she's saying hi, Janet, and she has given you her information. So I'm assuming that
Great. I
Gail
believe I
would
have
like a
it.
reading.
That's awesome. So when we get to that part, I'll be happy to do that. I think, Gail, that I have your information, but just in case, it's good that you put it in there for us. So I have that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've got Snow Angel Spirit with us.
Hi, Snow.
And yes, and Gail saying hello, love. How gorgeous.
Yeah,
It's
I love the way that we can do this now, right?
I know.
That Zoom, that we can chat with one another, and people far flung around the world, right? I'm sitting here in the state of Washington in the USA. You're down in Melbourne, Australia, and I know that Gail, I believe, is in like Pennsylvania and or
Yes.
something. So
Yes.
and Ursula's in Northern California. We're all over the place. Asa in Washington, D.C. So like we're everywhere and we're coming together for this. It's lovely.
Well, Gail's saying it's been too long. So how lovely that she's reached out to us today.
Perfect timing. So
Yeah.
if we go back to our Mars retrograde for a moment, for the
Yes.
most of the session here today, I want to give everybody the dates to expect this. So, or I mean the dates and the degrees. So if you're someone who knows your own astrology chart, and trust me when I say when you come to my morning show or you come to Annette's show when I'm on it, the best thing is to have your own copy of your astrology chart or your human design chart or both with you so that you can move through this with me while we're talking about it. So Mars will be retrograding in Aries, a sign that he rules. So that gives him more power, more punch, an energetic lift, if you will, to put forth whatever his agenda is in our charts. And he will be retrograding between the degrees of 28 and 15. So if you know your chart, find the place where Aries is. Aries is the ram, and it follows Pisces and is before Taurus, so it's sandwiched between the two. And the 28th degree to the 15th degree is the span of degrees through which he will retrograde. Now, he's already passed through this territory one time, right? He's been here already, in that he is now at about 27, 28 degrees of Aries in his slowdown for the retrograde. So we're already, if you think back over the last several weeks, what's been going on in your life? What has the action been pointed towards? What have you noticed that maybe is slowing down, or where you need to rethink the plan? Because that's likely going to be the area of the chart where Mars turning slow and turning inward is slowing down the action for you. So that span of degrees. I think I already said it was September 9th to November 13th. So about 10 weeks that he will be in that retrograde state. Now, planets like Mars, who are a little further out from the sun, they go into retrograde fewer times in a cycle than, say, Mercury, which is closer into the sun.
Well, that makes sense.
Yes. And in some signs, he moves quicker, or has more visitations, let's say, to that sign. Well, Aries, you would think, would be one of those signs where he visits quite often, but he does not visit quite often at all. In fact, the last time we had a Mars retrograde in the sign of Aries was in 1988. So if you can think back, put your thinking caps on and go back to 1988, you might get a glimpse of what kind of action got stalled, or what you were working on in your life that time, where were some reversals and that type of thing. It's never going to be exactly the same, right? So whatever happened then isn't going to be the exact thing that happens this time. But the other clue here is that his next retrograde in Aries won't be until 2067. And when you think about that, unless I live to be 107 degrees, I won't be here for it. Or 107 years old, not 107 degrees. Oh, you sure?
Won't be here. Unless I get my wish to live to 120.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just kind of funny to think about, right? That how unique this period of time is in our lives, that it is, still, what is that, 40 some years off before he goes through this sign again. So we have an opportunity now to really focus on the things that Mars wants us to focus on. So what is that, right? What is it that we're supposed to be focusing on here? Well, first of all, any planet that moves inward, as we know, or moves retrograde, sometimes brings up the more negative expressions, the things that that we are really needing to work on. And for Mars, that means frustration, because our self-expression or the actions that we want to take are sort of caught up short, right? They're reined in, so to speak. And we lose motivation, even maybe, to do the things that we're used to doing. And the forward momentum of our projects, of our life, of our jobs, of anything that we've been working on seems to stall a bit, or that momentum is hindered in some way. Like something happens and you just, things out of your control even happen that force you to make it so that you're more patient, that you have to wait longer. Now, all in all, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if we slow down and we bring more patience to bear, we might see where our plans were never going to work, right? Or where things that we thought could happen or could work won't work. So the blocks or things that show up during this period of time are not meant to, make you bad or angry or upset, although that's likely, upsetting. It's meant to have you take a second look at the plan, to take a look at what are you doing? Is the doing in alignment with what your heart space is? Essentially, that's what we're looking at. Because sometimes this very masculine energy of doing can get out of control, right? You start going and going and going, and you can lose sight very easily about what's important. So we have a huge opportunity at this point to get back to what is important. How do we align, right? Mars and Venus work together, and Venus is our feminine principle, masculine is Mars. So maybe we can pause for a moment to get more in alignment with the feminine principle, taking our time to sort of go into that space, that void, the place we often don't like to go because nobody likes the silence in the void. So we're looking at going into the silence. Now, there's also something, a transit of Mars to the planet Saturn, that is creating some more havoc in this particular time period, more so than other times when Mars has been here. And that is that Saturn is in Capricorn, and Capricorn and Aries are signs that come to a 90-degree angle with one another, what we call in astrology a square. And a square brings up challenges. Right. So now we have Mars challenging Saturn. Saturn is about form and structure and making things sustainable and doing things the right way, maintaining integrity. And Mars is just zoom, zoom, zoom. Let's get it done. Let's go. Bada boom, bada bang. Right. So we have a Mars that's now slowed down by his retrograde, where frustration and anger and upset, delays and limitations are all around us and all about us. And Saturn, the taskmaster, kind of holding those reins very tightly with Mars during this period of time, is there right now in a square on Monday, this past Monday. So your Tuesday, these two planets were already in a square. So that frustration's already building, right? Mars isn't even retrograde yet. So you can sort of feel the steam is building in some ways in our lives.
Oh, hold on. Janet, may I welcome Gabby, and Carol Ann is here as well, and also Alison. So thank you all, as well as those who were here already. And I'm sure that there will be others as well who may not be commenting. So
right, or they don't unmask themselves. They hide in the back. Lots of times that happens on my morning show too. It's like, oh, and then somehow one day they pop in and they go, oh, I'm always listening to your show, but it's the first time I've joined you live. So it's always
Lovely.
fun to do that. So we have slowdowns, we have restrictions, we have a recall back to our boundaries and to our limits. And so this will be a time, not a good time to start something new, right? That is the big message here. Don't attempt even during the retrograde itself. Like right now, until September 9th, you could probably, if you have projects in the works, maybe launching them before the retrograde might be good,
Right.
although you're already in that slowdown. So you might also want to stop and relook at what it is that you've planned on doing and seeing if there's something that's likely going to cause your plan to fizzle out, because that's likely what happens if you start things under a Mars retrograde, is that it might go on for a time, but then it fizzles out. It doesn't have the energy to carry it through from the beginning through the middle and to the end. So we want to be able to watch what is going on in our lives in what it is that we're starting. So for example, I was starting a human design series of lessons, and I thought, I want to start that. I want to start that in September. Oh, damn. Mars is going retrograde. So I had to adjust the timeline a little bit earlier so that I could be starting that at a time where things weren't going to fizzle out, if that makes sense to people. So if you have things that you wanted to start, now would be a better time than from the 9th of September to the 13th of November. This is also a time that we are all able to go within and I hate to say confront, because that sounds sort of adversarial, but to take a look at, engage what inner anger you might be holding, or what places where you feel you've been stifled or where you've been repressed or oppressed, whether from your own doing or from somebody else's doing in your life. This is a time where we can really address that and make plans to correct that situation. So often we find that we're the ones that have been holding our own reins, right? That we've been holding ourselves as a victim, perhaps, or just for whatever reason, we've listened to other people instead of our own wisdom. So it'll be a time for us to be able to maybe see that clearly and not necessarily take forward action on that, but at least see and address it, right? What is my plan going to be to free myself up from this oppression or this repression?
Right.
But when
We've got
Mars,
more
oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
Janet.
Go ahead, more
We've got
people.
more people joining us, isn't it lovely? And Snow Angel so I'd like to say hello to Sarah and to Crystal. Snow Angel would like to know, she's about to explore astrology, wants to know more about it, and has asked about books. I'm going to say, Snow Angel and everybody else, visit Janet's website because there's a wealth of information there, and you can request a free chart.
Yeah,
so
that's a good place to start with your own chart.
living-astrology.com. A great place to start, Snow Angel.
Yep. Don't forget the hyphen, or the email will bounce back because that's a different website. So make sure the hyphen is between living and astrology.
Yep.
And that's a good place to start. On my website, I don't really have books listed, and I probably should do that, but I tend to just go like on this meandering trip with books. Like this morning we were chatting about, somebody brought up Melanie Reinhardt, and I'm like, oh, the best book ever is this book, but that I have by Melanie Reinhardt. So yeah, I say follow your intuition, your gut instinct. Let it allow you to draw you to the right books, the right people, the right information.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Crystal is from Iowa, and she's saying that she was born on the cusp. I'm not sure of what cusp.
And there's 12 of them, so we'll need to know what the cusp means. I was born on a cusp of Gemini Cancer. And that means, usually a cusp means you're kind of embodying both of the characteristics of both signs. Primarily the sun in Gemini is my main characteristic, but there's that Cancer part that's just sort of right there that's being pulled in as well. So a cusp is important to know because
Right.
you may not be that true, authentic expression of the sign that you think you are.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to Mars for a moment, one of the
Yes.
other things for us to expect is that we might be too close to something to see clearly. And
Uh-huh.
if that happens, then that leads us to take impulsive actions, right? We're
Mm.
tired of waiting and wondering and wiggling around, and with that indecision is just so untenable that we take impulsive actions. That is not a good thing, right? These are not the good things for you to express during Mars retrograde. Taking impulsive action can mean that you also have to pull back your energy, or you have to course correct when the planet turns back to forward motion. The energy of competition. Here in the USA, we have the presidential election coming up and a Mars retrograde. I've just been sort of dreading to the advertisements and the mudslinging and all of that can come out of this competition, because that's literally what it's
Mm.
going to get drug into. There's aggression, there's defensiveness. We may all become more defensive, in
Mm-hmm.
defense of our opinions, in defense of our physical bodies, in defense of whatever, right? Um, but this gives us an opportunity to break through some boundaries. Let me reframe that. I don't want you breaking through boundaries, especially if you've placed them there for a good reason. But it may have you readdressing those boundaries. Do they still stand the test of time? Do they make sense in your life? Did you put in a boundary that's really not helping you? That's,
Mm-hmm.
something that's holding you back. So looking at the boundaries that you've placed, they can either be too many, too harsh, too strong, or maybe you haven't placed enough and maybe you need to work with that. Or you may have put boundaries into place that were there for your benefit, and you may be tempted to break through them during this period of time. Be very careful with that. And we or others around us may be overly assertive, pushing themselves into us, or into our world, pushing their beliefs onto us and that kind of thing. And all of us, no matter what sign you are, may feel during this period of time a little bit out of touch, like we're living in a non-reality. And I think we're
Mm.
already feeling that. The whole year has kind of pushed us into that realm a bit. So we can feel out of touch or out of step with what is normal, by quotes, right? Quoting normal. What is that? I mean,
Yeah. Good question, Janet.
yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking this is the end of August for us in the Northern Hemisphere. School starts between end of August and September. And I'm thinking it's going to be really weird not to hear school buses, right? Because the
Mm.
kids aren't going back to school here in our area. They're going back to school, but not in
Remote.
classrooms. They're going to be on remote. And
Yes.
so the world may feel a little weird, like, is it really September if the kids aren't getting on buses and going to school? That's kind of the thing that I've been already kind of faced with. So we might be looking at that as well during this period of time. What's normal? I don't know, because I don't feel normal anymore. Nothing feels normal to me anymore.
Well, yes, we are certainly in a time of change, aren't we? May I just
Definitely.
ask a question on behalf of Asa? She
Uh-huh.
wants to know how, and it's a really great question. How many days before and after are considered being on the cusp of a sign or two signs?
Yeah, I think that depends on the actual sign. Like in my case, I'm on the first day of the cuspiness of the cusp. Usually it's 2 days on either side,
Uh-huh.
that they consider 2 to 3 days, depending on the sign itself. And but I usually think if you're at the 27th to the 29th degree of a sign, then I think you're on the cusp. And it's worth looking at then the first and the second degree of the newer sign, the next sign over, to see if you can glean more information about yourself through looking at that other sign,
Well,
especially if there's a planet there, right? If you have a planet in your chart that's on the cusp as well, that can draw more power from the other sign. Just to throw that out there, Asa.
Information. Now, Gail would like you to repeat the dates for
Sure.
Mars. So, because she's already feeling a lot of these things, and so are other members in her home. So interesting, and I'm sure other people might be saying the same thing.
Well, absolutely, Gail, because as any planet that goes into retrograde, it moves into its shadow of the retrograde approximately 3 weeks before the retrograde. So we've been in the shadow of Mars retrograde since I want to say July 25th. So if you want an actual
Right.
date, I think it was July 25th. And then we go into the retrograde on September 9th through November 13th, but then we're in the post shadow from November 14th until January 2nd. So it's a very
Wow.
long cycle that
Mm.
retrograde holds power. So you could think of it as, whooshing in and stirring up, some of that sensation of what the retrograde will be about, then the retrograde itself, and then the batting cleanup afterwards, and putting
Mhm.
everything back to rights, probably in a new order, in a new way. So that's Mars. Mars does not move into Mars actually moved into Aries June 27th, and he won't leave Aries until the second week of January. So that's a long period of time
It
for an
is.
inner planet to be in one sign. Yeah,
Mm.
Mercury did that to us this summer too, where he spent an inordinate amount of time in the sign of Cancer from like May 20th or something all the way through August 4th. So the retrogrades seem to be a bit elongated, the periods of time that they're sitting in the retrograde and then the time that they're spending in the sign, like giving us more time to really absorb what we need to from that sign.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now we've talked a lot about the negative ramifications of Mars in retrograde, but what about the good stuff, right? Because
Oh,
there's got to be
important.
something that balances the more negative expression. And indeed, there are some really good things that we
Mhm.
can take from this particular retrograde of Mars. One, learning how to handle pressure and conflict by releasing it, letting it go,
Mhm.
just going, I'm done fighting this, right? I'm just done laying down your sword, so to speak, right? I'm not going to fight this battle anymore. I'm going to become more passive, or I'm just going to release. That might
Mhm.
mean forgiveness. It might mean more gratitude. It might mean more of just letting go, right? Just letting things go. Um, we have the opportunity to slow down, smell the roses or the coffee, whichever is your preference, and learn to enjoy the slower pace. Don't you think we
Yeah.
already had to learn that when we all went into lockdown earlier in the year? And
Mm.
when you go out, I remember walking in March and April outside here and just enjoying the absolute stillness without
Mm.
cars on the road. I could hear more birds. I could hear the water. I could hear the wind through the trees. I mean, it was magnificent, right? So take that opportunity now to slow down, to be able
Mm.
to enjoy things that maybe you don't often just sit and enjoy, including that cup of coffee or your water or whatever it is, or that time that you're spending with someone.
Mm.
This one's going to come out of left field, but have sex. Mars in retrograde, perfect time to dispel that pent up physical energy through a sexual relationship or going back to an old workout routine that you used to have, or a sport that you kind of backburnered because life got too busy. Um, because maybe there's more gratification in physical um, action, physical exercise than there is at other times. Other times it might feel like a chore, or that I have to go to the gym every day because I need to get my, cardio in. But now it might feel more fun to go back to volleyball or to go back to running or yoga or something that you used to do more
Mhm.
frequently than you have been doing. So change up your routine, do something different, right?
Mhm.
This is a time for you to have courage to confront your inner demons, your fears, your issues. Now, that may not all sound so much like fun, but it certainly is the high side of Mars in retrograde, the ability to dig into the depths, to be able to see what's lurking in the underworld, so to speak, of your subconscious mind, issues that you've been hiding from, people you've been hiding from, doing work that you've been hiding from, like, getting things done that you've not been wanting to do or that you've just kept putting off. That's me going to the dentist, right? I keep putting that off, and I keep thinking every day I'm going to call the dentist and I'm going to go. And every day I keep going, oh, well, I'm so busy. I haven't had time yet. So it's a great time to make peace with someone or something from your past, or someone from your past that you feel hurt you or did something to you. And it's a great time to make peace with an issue, a grudge, a grievance that you've held on to. There's no point in holding on to it anymore. It's a great time to let it go. And it's a great time for you to get closer to your truth, capital T, truth. I love saying that, capital T, truth, the one big truth, love, energy, and finding your identity and your purpose that's unique to you, right? Taking the time to do some of that inner work. There's some great books out there on finding your purpose. It might be time to dive into something like that, or to take a course that teaches you about self-love and self-acceptance and self-mastery. And we could go on with the self words, but Aries is a sign that rules the self. So take this moment to put some focus on the self for yourself, right? Taking
Well,
care of you.
I like that you said that, because Alison has made a recommendation for Snow Angel. I love the timing. You were born for this, is the book she suggests. How wonderful is that? And here you are saying a very similar thing.
Exactly, right? There are some really great books like that out there, by the way, that help either through astrology or, one of my favorite ones was Finding Your North Star, something like that, using it's a Finding Your North Star, something to guide you to the right things for you. I gave the book to my daughter after I was done with it, because I thought it was so useful to help you get, kind of clear about, where you want to go, who you want to be, and by asking questions. It was sort of a workbook kind of structure. And it was really kind of fun to go through that process, and quite enlightening, I might add, as well. I'm all for enlightenment.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
It's important that we're learning. I figure, Janet, every conversation sees me as a student and also as a teacher. When we share information, it's
we get something and we give something. It's mutual. Now, besides Mars turning retrograde, there are a couple of other things to watch out for in September and moving on into the equinox time of year. I have to say equinox because for you all it's going to do spring. For us, we're going into autumn. So we'll just talk about it as the equinox. For one thing, we have right now several planets that are in retrograde. I think I counted up to 9 of them. If you counted the asteroids like Ceres and Pallas Athena and Eris, and there was another one that I saw that was retrograde on top of Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and now Mars turning retrograde. So we have, and Uranus is also retrograde. I knew I was missing one. So we have a lot of energy of planets already turned inward. So Mars, for the first 4 or so days that he is in retrograde, will make that a 6th planet, if you will, if you're only counting the planets, that is in retrograde. And that means that that's a lot of inward focused, a lot of space for us to work on ourselves, on our inner world and our connection to spirit, and really becoming more true and authentic to ourselves. And as Mars goes on, then the planets in September the other planets that are retrograde begin one by one to turn from retrograde into direct. First will be Jupiter. And then toward the end of September, it will be Saturn. And right in the early part of October, it'll be Pluto that turns. So for a while, we have all of these retrograde planets, but while Mars is retrograde, the others begin to change back to direct motion. And Mars is in a position at that point in time to really challenge those planets in Capricorn, because that's where Jupiter's, Pluto, and Saturn all are sitting. So for a while yet, we still have this reconstruction, deconstruction energy, rebirthing and regenerating that will be in play. So I'm torn. I have like a 50-50 thing going on here, where part of me believes that there's likely going to be some real chaotic stuff that's going on during these next couple of months, while the other part of me thinks, yeah, but Mars is faced inward, and maybe it's us that has to change. You know, each one of us on the inner world has to change. It's not going to change necessarily the things that have already begun to degenerate our systems, right, and our institutions and things like that have already started that crumbling process. But I'm torn as to whether there's more of the drama and the trauma of it all, or
I get the
whether
sense we've got more to come.
I do too, and I hate saying that, because Mars typically in retrograde should slow that all down. It might slow it down, but I think it's also going to make it longer that we're experiencing the tension and the anxiety, especially in places like here in the US, where we have this very crazed, divided government going on, and an election year is already crazy. Now you add that several different things going on at one time. I think there might be more. So hold on to your hats, hold on to your seats, and stay as centered as possible during this whole entire fall. And then just to add some insult to injury, Mercury will turn retrograde. Yay. October 13th, I believe it is, until Halloween. And that period of, or that's maybe when he enters the shadow. I should have written those dates down. Pretty sure he goes retrograde on the 13th of October until Halloween. So we have Mercury retrograde to deal with, and he will be in Scorpio, a sign that is, you know, very deep, very secretive, very much in the negative side of things, can be very much about exposing secrets or things that are going on under the behind the scenes, can be very passive aggressive energy. If we can go into that period of time with the high side of Scorpio energy, which is that really beautiful passion and intensity to move toward a goal and to help, you know, elevate everybody, then, you know, it could be a completely different story. But I feel like there's going to be a degeneration more than a regeneration. But of course, if there's a degeneration, there's always a regeneration on the other end, right? It's part of a continuum. So the fall and springtime may be more of the same, with some other dramas thrown in there. Dramas like Hurricane Laura bearing down on the Gulf Coast, and who knows what else, you know, that the election might bring. And so everybody just be prepared, but try to stay in a place of peace. Don't get caught up in that crazy outer world.
Yes, that's really looming very big, isn't it? We have the choice as to how we respond to whatever is happening in our lives.
Yeah, I want you to like underline, highlight, exclamation point, print it in huge print. You have the choice, right? It always comes down to a choice. Are you going to choose to tie into the drama and make it bigger, or are you going to relax and just be at peace and create love from love in your own life, and let that be a mirror to others to bring that more into their lives? I mean, truly, it lies with each of us, the response ability of these times and how we react or respond. It's all up to us. It's always a choice. It's a difficult choice for some people, right? It's difficult when you're crazed. Oh, Lord.
Asa is interested to know, Mars has been moving through her fifth and sixth house. He will station direct before going forward on my Jupiter and Eris, would that in the fifth, and pointing to a yod in my natal. What should I focus on?
Adjusting and sacrificing and adjusting again and being flexible and always asking yourself the question, Asa, does this make me happy? Because there's a happiness quotient here in that 5th house. It's about creating joy, play, being more in the fun of creativity and in the creative flow. The fact that Mars will be passing over your natal Jupiter is that you're adding wisdom about that creative energy. And the fact that it's at the point of a yod tells you that that's where you really need to, the focus of that energy is in that 5th house then. And having fun in your work, making your work your play. I'm curious as to what's at the other end, but we can always look at that tomorrow in your chart when we get together if you would like, because there's always a base to a yod, right? The base, there's 2 planets that are in a sextile to one another. They work together well, but either one of them don't work with the energy of the planet at the point. So we have to make those adjustments, and we have to sometimes sacrifice what we thought we needed, what we thought we wanted, for what really is what works for us in the moment. And that's hard to do, right? Because we get very invested in our desires and in creating what we think we need to create. And it makes it hard then for us to make that adjustment, but adjust you will. Adjust you must. And
I think that's important. Yeah, we do need to adjust, don't we?
we do. That is huge when you have a yod. That's huge. A yod, for those of you who don't know, it's a configuration in an astrology chart. It looks very much like an isosceles triangle. If you can go back to your 8th, 9th grade geometry class. And the angles that are formed between the base planets, right? The base angles that form the basis of the yod, they create a 150-degree angle, which in astrology speak just says we don't know each other. We speak 2 different languages. We are 2 different cultures. Something's got to give if we're going to understand how to work together. And so it calls for cooperation, maybe collaboration, adjustment, flexibility, all of that in order to make that nozzle in her case, Jupiter, work with Mars passing over it. So either that or someone in your family is going to have a baby. Child of yours having a baby. I don't know. That's just thrown out there in a weird sort of way. But and now Eris, she had said something about Eris being engaged there, and that's also, she's a goddess energy and a goddess of discord. So she turns things upside down, and she begs for inclusivity. And any place where you've been pushing things away or being more exclusive, she wants to bring it in. She'll point it out. So it could be interesting times for you, Asa.
Well, Asa says, yeah, she's looking forward to talking tomorrow. Yeah. Now, Gail was after a reading and her details have disappeared off my page.
Well, let's hold on here because I'm pretty sure I have her in here. Gail, Gayle, G-A-Y-L-E, is it? I'm just going to go to G.
G-A-Y-L-E, yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to go
Groningen.
Groningen. And pretty sure she should be in here. If I knew how to spell G-R, she's not in here. I'm so surprised.
Okay. Gail, can you redo, wait, hold on. I might be able to do something. There's
she may also, did she have a different last name too? That may be the case. Sometimes, you know. No, I don't have a Gail at all.
All right. Her birth date is 5/1/64.
Okay.
7:37 p.m.
Okay.
Camp Hill, well, I'm assuming it's Pennsylvania, it's PA.
PA, Pennsylvania. See, I knew she was from Pennsylvania. Now, how else would I know that if she didn't have a chart in here?
Yes.
That just annoys me to no end, but that's all right, Gail. I'll just take a moment and add it in and we'll be okay. And does she have a specific question or is it just in general about what's going on?
General, yes.
Okay.
Let me see. Oh, yes, Vallis Valley is her last name, Vallie.
Oh, that may be where you are. So let's take a look there. Because I know with all of my beingness that I've had you in here. But of course, that isn't true either. So forget it. I'm just adding you in. Jeez.
And she's gorgeous. She's like, when you had the fly away, maybe there's a grandchild coming. She's saying, I
Oh.
have a 2-year-old grandson. So,
Oh.
yes. And Gail saying, yes, you did my chart last year. Yes, general, and thank you.
That's so crazy that I can't find her. It's probably because I'm looking too hard. Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, right? Was it?
Yes.
There you. Oh, wait, Cumberland County or Allegheny County? Oh my gosh, can you believe there's 2 Camp Hills in Pennsylvania? And they're at different latitudes. Longitudes, west, that would be. So Camp Hill in Cumberland County or in Allegheny County, Gail?
I'm just waiting for a response.
Yeah.
Cumberland County.
Got it. Thank you, Gail. That's interesting. Attention, we assume, don't ever assume.
Huh?
She must have been born at a time when the state was not quite decided whether they were going to go with daylight savings time or not. That happens with Chicago people or Illinois, people born in Illinois in the early 60s. Every time I get that warning, is this, we're assuming that they did it correctly in daylight savings time or in standard time, depending on the place. Okay, so Gail, getting this up here, and then can we share the screen at all so she can see what we're talking about?
Yes, we can. Let me just see. Oh, this is where tricky. I need to give you permission to share the screen. Would that be right?
Probably. Well, let's see if it'll let me. Nope, host disabled participant screen sharing. Which you probably didn't. It just defaulted to that, so I can't share.
Oh, what a shame. Okay.
Let's see. How would you do that? I think it's under participants.
We did this, yes, another time. Let me just have a little look. Participants. No, wait, let me just bear with me, everybody. Multiple participants. There you go. You should be able to do it now.
All right, let's do it. Yes, I can.
Whoa! Learning, aren't we?
So we are. We can do this. And Zoom is making things easier lately, so that's kind of nice. So Gail, we're looking at your chart. And let me just take a once over here since I haven't looked at it in a while, apparently. I guess it wasn't there. So just getting a lay of the land, so to speak. So Gail, if I can annotate here, which usually it will let me do that. And yes, I can do this. I can circle right here where we have the planet Mars, Eris, and the black moon Lilith fairly close together in your chart. And they are moving through the 6th house of your chart, which is a house that is related to your physical health, as well as to how it is you do your work, where you do your work. And they would be squaring the planets in Capricorn. So I'm just going to draw a red line from there to there. I'm sorry that it's not straight. Somehow that never happens for me. And oh gosh. Well, there's our square right here. You see this 90-degree angle. That's the square between Mars and the planets Eris and the black moon Lilith. And I got it way off. It should really be more like that, getting to where we have the Capricorn bunch, I call them. I can't do that now because I've got that stuck there. Anyway, so the Capricorn bunch, the reconstruction crew, the regeneration crew, they are in your 3rd house of the mind and of teaching and learning and communication. And then Mars is activating or going retrograde into, causing a slowdown in the action in the house of work, service, and health. So a couple of things come to mind for me. One, guard your health, right? Make sure that you're not burning the candle at both ends, where you're creating a pathway for exhaustion or burnout. And then take to heart the idea of choice over those next few months in terms of how it is you want to regenerate your business, or where you do your business, or if you're in the process of regenerating your health. You also have natal Mars here. So you've just had a Mars return. If you look right here, it was at 25 degrees of Aries. So literally Mars return every 2 years or every 24 months or so, we all have a Mars return. That just means it returns to the same place it was when we were born. Before that point, we may feel tired, we may feel run down, we may feel a little lethargic, or like, oh, I just can't lift my hands up to do anything. And that's a natural thing as the cycle winds down. And then as it crosses over that natal Mars, then your energy begins to restore and renew and recharge. The problem for you is that your natal Mars is in the midst of that retrograde period of time. So you may have a couple of instances of your energy sort of vacillating, coming and going. So another reason why it should be you should take very good care of yourself, right? Making sure you do all the things that support your health, that support your body. And it may be that you do some of your business more from home. Of course, that's a duh, right? Everybody's sort of working from home, but maybe you're working on more of those things from behind the scenes right now, rather than engaging in them in the outer world. So just being wise to how you're using your energy, and things will change for sure for you as you move into January. So I know that seems like a long ways away, but look how fast we got to September. I mean, like the whole year has just been cruising by. So things will change dramatically as Mars comes to roost upon your Mercury and your Jupiter somewhere in January to February of 2021. So does that answer any questions you had, or is there something else that you wanted me to take a look at? Go ahead and type that into the chat so Annette can pass that on to me.
Yes. Now, Gail did say her time was actually 7:43 p.m.
I don't think that 5 minutes is not going to make a big difference at all. It's not. So not in this discussion. If we were looking at the moon, perhaps there's a couple of degrees that not even, I can't even imagine that it would be any change.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. And Gail was saying, Janet, that she just happened to pop in today, and Anaya has responded to say, no, well, you were meant to do that. Isn't it? Timing, that brings up the point of how often are we drawn to do something, to listen to that inner voice, or the voice that might be coming from angels or wherever, to act on that intuition is so important.
It is. And if you all, stay tuned at 6:30 and tune into our my talk with Annette and Carol Ann this evening, we're going to talk about how much more we are becoming like angels as time goes on here, as we let go of some parts of ourselves and open up during the next 7 years as the solar plexus mutation in human design takes effect, and how that affects us all. Initially some craziness to it, but ultimately becoming more angelic and more human than what we have been. That will be a lovely change.
Gorgeous. Now, just before we go, Janet, Ursula has said, retrograde Mars will sit on my natal Sedna in house 8 and oppose natal Venus. How, any thoughts on what that means, Janet?
No idea whatsoever, Ursula. You know better. Of course I know. I'm going to pull up your chart if you don't mind, so we can look at that. Just teasing. Hopefully the fires in your neck of the wood, Ursula, have calmed down and that everybody is finding safety. So Ursula, what she is saying is that Mars is retrograde in her 8th house on top of her natal Sedna. Now, Sedna is, she's also retrograde. How interesting, right? Sedna is a goddess asteroid that I believe it was 2005 when she was discovered. And she was given the energy of a sort of maturing process that happens between parent and child. So we have a maturation here, either a failure to launch kind of scenario or a turning your back on your family, leaving early or leaving young, maturing quite early. So Sedna really represents to us where it is that we've cut the apron strings in our lives, where we have been able to move on from our childhood, from our parents, etc. Whether or not you know had really good relationships with them or not, sometimes we or the parent are holding on too tightly, right? So Sedna really represents that process of our maturing and maturing in a consciousness, not maturing as I'm growing up. I'm growing wiser and I'm becoming more conscious. And Mars here is maybe triggering that for you in the way that you're transforming maybe things that are popping up in your field that remind you of things that were happening in your childhood or even just in your younger days. That there's a lot of times we see things that have happened to us and they come back up. Like right now is a time where all of us are having these memories come back up and they're like, I can't remember where I put my damn glasses, but I can certainly remember every wound that happened to me as a child. And that's kind of weird, but that's how we're all kind of experiencing these changing times. So the real gift for you in all of this, Ursula, is to be able to release them, to just live, relive them, embrace them, and not relive them. That's not what I really want to say. I really want to say, like, being able to say it's okay that I had that experience, that it no longer defines me, but it is a part of who I am. It is a part of my life direction. And then, being able to just love that energy into yourself and watch it, how it changes or reshapes over time. Now, what was it she said about Venus? That's something about natal Venus.
Yes, and oppose natal Venus.
Well, natal Venus is actually in Taurus at 6 degrees. So it really isn't opposing that until after we get into 2021. So that'll be February, March, maybe of 2021. It depends. I can't think right now about how fast Mars picks up speed. But by then I would guess, he's picking up some speed. So I'm thinking February, maybe March, where Mars will oppose Venus. And, that's really lovely energy when these two come into opposition. It's like where the feminine and the masculine balance themselves, right? They're getting balanced. Of more concern for all of us should be that Mars is going to conjunct Uranus in Taurus not long after the first of the year. And that can represent some explosions, some surprises, and some excitement, some, danger even in some cases. So it's a time, for us to be careful, to take care, and for us to be very aware of our surroundings and just to watch for the surprises, that the things, the epiphanies, the revelations that may come to us that transform, in your case, Ursula, your life. So I think it's some good stuff. But there's also the possibility of dealing with death and inheritance and the idea of setting up yourself for that eventual transition that we'll all make. And, do I have a will? Do I have a living will? Do I have all my ducks in a row? Do I have my investments in alignment? Am I cutting down debt? And there's a financial piece to all of that too for you as you go into this time period. So I'm going to cut it short there because I know we're getting close to the end here.
We are, yes. And Ursula's saying, thank you so much.
You're welcome, sweetie.
Beautifully said. And the fires still rage in our mountains. Does that mean?
Yeah, she lives in Northern California, and there's like 600 fires right now in the state of California.
Oh my goodness.
It's pretty tragic and lots of devastation. Hopefully they'll get a handle on it.
They had fires last year too.
Yes, they did. Very big fires, very devastating fires. And it's just kind of crazy that it's happening again. But I mean, fire is a part of the culture, the life of a Californian, but they just seem to be really ramped up over the last couple of years. There's a reason for that too. We're going to be discussing that in Annea's segment later as well. Oh, just to tickle everybody into going from this show to Annea's show at 6:30 my time. I'm not sure what time that is for you guys.
Well, 11? Literally in 30 minutes. So yes, I will be listening in for sure, and I trust other people will too.
Right here at the same place, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Stay on, everybody. You know, time to stretch the legs, and the beauty of this, Janet, of course, is that we can be doing other things and listening, and at the same time, if we
absorbing,
it's time to have a cuppa, early lunch for us, whatever, early dinner for people in the States, or supper or whatever.
Yeah, it's dinner time right now. So I'm going to go eat something really quickly and come back and chat with Annea and Carol Ann.
All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much. What a fabulous show we've had. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And please, yes, go and do something quickly. Come back in 30 minutes.
I'll be here. All right. Thank you, Annette. I love being on your show.
Okay. I love you being here. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's been very